So wherever you are, whatever you have found yourself doing, the mind will have been focused or busy. The body will have a certain momentum of energy to it. And right now, just make the choice to let it go. To let the past pass away, right up to the moment of now. And in one of Joshua's key teachings, not necessarily in the Beatitudes or the Lord's Prayer, but this delicious notion that those things that have ripeness or purpose will always be there waiting for us. And the things that are not so important pass away. Give no thought for tomorrow. The word in Aramaic for tomorrow means things pass away, but aren't really part of the ripeness of the now. And we can begin to trust that, yes. And so this delicious recognition that we all have trouble with, the mind believes I must complete the to-do list. Everything that's calling on me must be met today or very soon, or somehow I am failing. The universe will tilt on its axis and all of the birds will fall off unless I complete everything. Yet for Joshua, there's this deep sense that comes as we heal and awaken of what we call in the pathway holy perfection, holy harmony, ripeness. So right here, right now, I invite you to notice if the mind is pulled away by thoughts of what has been or what must be done, distraction. And can we begin to let into our awareness that right now is the right moment. And if I really needed to wash my car right now, I'd be washing my car. Or whatever it may be, whatever task the mind thinks must be happening. That what is arising right now is the ripeness of the entire cosmos, the intelligence of sacred union, God, if we will, Allah, Allaha, Abun, Abba, is already orchestrating perfectly. So let's let ourselves relax into trusting that whatever may appear to be unfinished will have its ripeness and its timing. And what is not arising now is clearly not in its ripe timing. And this means we can relax. We can begin to soften. And in that we begin to come into presence. How do we do that? By just noticing what is. Where this amazing miracle that frankly no one truly understands, called the body, an aspect of creation, mind, soul, intent, desire, right where it is in space-time, can we truly be there and welcome it just as it is? It may be a little tired if you're at the end of your day or you've gotten up really early in the morning to join with your brothers and sisters. It may feel energized or preoccupied with energies from the day. Let's welcome it all just as it is. We're beginning to come into feeling communion rather than thinking about, and we can welcome it. And in this very act, we're already practicing love. We're already resting in the quality of love that can allow embrace and fold exactly what is. And as you gently scan through the body, just by letting your awareness, again, some key little areas behind the eyes, can we let it soften? Perhaps all day the energy of the brain-mind focuses out through the eyes, selecting, comparing, contrasting, assessing. Is this a liability or an asset, a threat or a support? So this tension builds up in the brain-mind behind the eyes. Can we let it soften and relax? And the temples. Often when we focus in the mind, especially via the ego or fear, it's as if we have little vices on our temples. We're squeezing inward to try to stay focused and yet defended. And this can create tension in the area of the temples. Let it relax. And down across the face to your delicious jaw. It often holds tremendous tension, a bracing. Can we let it relax, almost like it were sagging with the weight of gravity? If we've developed a personality that always needs to be smiling regardless of what's happening, it often takes great effort in the jaw to help maintain, and all those tiny muscles to maintain the smile. Can we let it go? Can we relax it? And then down through the throat, a more subtle, yet very powerful area of this beauteous communion device we call the body, where we hold tension. I have to keep a grip so I don't say what might disturb someone, or I don't expose the real truth of how I feel. So we learn to contract the throat, a deep holding and tension. Can I let it relax? For love keeps whispering to us, there is nothing to fear. You can surrender. And so we discover gradually these subtle places where we brace from habit. And gradually begin to realize that these are places that I don't trust love, that I'm seeking to defend or contract, keeping a grip on myself, because we do not trust that the deepest source of myself rests in God's embrace. Ena, Ena. The eye of the eye is God. And resting down through the shoulders, the delicious area of the heart. In such a common area to create subtle tension and gripping around the heart as a way to protect and defend. Yet every defense hardened reinforces the illusion I am separate from life. I am not part of the flow, and love is not supporting me. I must do it myself. Can we invite the heart to soften and let go? And down through the solar plexus, again another common, very deeply held place of tension, afraid of power. And deeper down into the belly. All the way down into the pelvic area. Can I let this base of the body, the bottom two chakras, if you will, sexuality or life force, and the root of simple survival or the continuance of the form of life called the body in the world. Again, very common areas to feel dead or dense or tense and out of awareness. Can I let it all relax and begin to feel that the body is indeed supported by the chair or the couch, and that it's situated in space-time, and that the chair is supported by the floor, supported by the building is supported by the earth supported by the solar system, like circles within expanding circles within expanding circles, all the way to the infinity of God, love, sacred unity, unimaginable, unlimited intelligence, light, creative power. And you are being held by all of those infinite circles. Indeed, you arise within them. We'll drop in a second pebble that we often tend to forget, even if we've been immersed in Way of Mastery for a while. I exist because the divine desires me to exist. But the infinite field of the desire of the cosmos is what brings you into existence as soul, as potentiality, as creator, as a field of living intelligence that can increasingly know its source, surrender into it, be moved by, and flow in it. And we have built obstacles to the presence of peace. And the journey is the journey of unraveling and dissolving those obstacles that have often been rendered unconscious from soul to cell. And so by simple presence, we feel ourselves right where we are. And then magically the next level begins to happen. We begin to notice the breath, the subtle, mysterious flow of energy. We may even come to realize at some point that this gift of breath or life is the only thing that we can be said to possess, and yet it is a gift. It is the emanation of God or the cosmos that brings you into being as it brings all of the circles and domains of creation. You are then an essential participant, an essential thread in a universal tapestry of creation itself. We welcome feeling communion with the breath. Tuvayum lamaskenahi paru. Ripeness now, resting in holy breath. We are already thinning the sense or contraction of the self made by the spinning of the mind. Now is the ripe time to make our home in the breathing. Welcome it. And as we come into feeling communion with it, we can allow it to deepen just through the desire to welcome the breath. You'll notice that the belly wants to relax. It's as if it's expanding like a balloon as the in-breath is received. Somewhere Joshua shares that to receive the breath is to receive the Holy Spirit. And as we immerse and flower in the Beatitudes, the depth of why he says that becomes increasingly obvious. For within this breath is light or intelligence. That light or intelligence is Shem, Sophia, Chokmah, wisdom, light, universal intelligence, unlimited potentiality. It is wholeness itself. So to welcome the breath is to welcome and allow our own resting ever more deeply into the field of this infinite wholeness. Tuvayun lamaskenehi baru dilhone. For those that do this, there now comes something. Something is drawn to us as we rest into what allows it to come. It is not our thinking mind or our egos, most certainly not our fears and our habits, but that which softens, that which opens, holy breath. Malkuta Dashmaya, the fertile field, the home of Chokmah, Sophia, Shem, love, infinite potentiality. As Joshua says, the Holy Spirit already knows the answer to every question. It increasingly begins to make sense through our own direct experience. This Malkuta, this fertileness, this unified field is everywhere. It's within you, around you, above you. It permeates the field of creation itself. That is what begins to come as we finally begin to make our home in the breathing, thinning the self, leaving the domain of the thinking mind with its concepts, beliefs, ideas, assessment, perceptions. We're also thinning the self, you may not notice it at first, by surrendering what we think we know and are surrendering and trusting not knowing. That there is a greater field beneath, under, permeating, holding my mind that actually knows and brings a field of intelligence, insight, and wisdom that the framed and habituated I, the thinking mind, can never grasp. And he reminds us in way of the heart, the mind was never designed to be the master, but the servant of the awakened heart. Holy breath is returning us to the heart, this crystalline, pure, surrendered emptiness that is yet the fullness of perfect oneness, the return of trust, faith. Faith not as belief, but as surrendered wholeness, knowing that Malkuta has come near, and within it is Sophia, wisdom. You can let the breath deepen, begin to feel its delicious rhythmic flow, opening, surrendering, welcoming. And oh yes, we may notice tension suddenly, or a burst of thought, or even the deep internal critical voice. You didn't finish your to-do list. What do you think you're doing? Idleness is the devil's playground, whatever it may be shouting. That's the voice we've listened to for a very long time, thinking it's been our best friend, but it's actually our enemy. And so we listen to it, we watch it like clouds passing through the sky. And as each thought or discomfort or sensation seems to pull us away, we let it become the signal, Tubayun Lamaskenahi Baruch, time to return to the breath and welcome it, rest in it. We may be overcome by tiredness. We allow it. Maybe time to take a nap or say goodnight. And he lets us know that as we truly cultivate and rest in this, it is not through our own efforting, but the wisdom of Malkuta begins to bring toward us what can truly knit us back together, deliver us into greater wholeness. It could be our tiredness, a yawn. We may need to stretch. It could be something so simple. It could be a memory, a feeling state. It could be the arising of that critical voice. What are you doing? You don't deserve to do this. That is Lawile. Tubayun Lawile. Dihinon. Tubayun Lawile. Welcoming whatever may arise, a confusion, a tension, a sensation, a busyness of the egoic mind. We begin to realize that the ego mind tries to decide what should be arising. I want union with God. I have no time to feel this sadness. It shouldn't be there. That thing that edits and judges. He invites us to cultivate that which welcomes. We may not yet know that what welcomes is the deeper nature of our being that trusts, that knows only love brings healing. A love allows all things, trusts all things, embraces all things. I just had an image of the death of my cat 5 years ago. And instead of going, well, that's just a distraction, I've got to get back to my meditation, I welcome it, for this is what has come to me. Malkuta, this wisdom and love, is revealing some fragment of energy. It can be so subtle, it could be very large. It may bring deep grief, or a deep sense of unworthiness. We don't know what it will be. But what it is met in exactly the same way. It's just welcomed. Noticing that if we lose flow of breath, we just return to the breath. We welcome it. Tubayun, Lawile, Dihinon, Dihinon. To touch and be touched by this kiss between the soul and its creator is occurring from soul to cell. Net by Yun. For when we allow this, the infinite power of love itself is already knitting us back together. It's dissolving the frequencies of holding a certain image, a certain memory, a conclusion, a sensation, something that's blocking an energy. It's already doing the work of dissolving that grip. And the result will be a deepening quality of wholeness. We can welcome the deepest of tears, the rage of anger, the laughter, the eroticism, a movement of sexual energy, life force. We begin to give up all of the myriad beliefs and perceptions and dogmas and fears that the world has given us as we've tried to grip, contain ourselves, and fit in to an insane world, losing this very trust and wholeness, the very alchemical power inherent in Malkuta that already knows how to knit us back together, how to unravel the hidden places, the rigidities within. We can feel our deepest fears. We can let the mind rant and rave as we rest in the breath, where it's simply dissolving and melting its grip. It's losing its power to be replaced by a far greater depth of wholeness. Just feeling that subtle flow of breath now, welcoming it. I like to imagine that the light inside the breath is kissing my pubic bone. The lower part of the belly is opening, the pelvic area is opening to receive this breath. The inside breath is light. There's a sweetness, a softness as we open to it. This can take time because we've deadened the body and lost touch with subtle feeling flow. This is itself but the result of the habits born of fear, the very process of incarnating, the bumps and bruises, the traumas, the attempts to conform to the consciousness of mother, father, important others, teachers, as we seek to gain approval, safety, and love. Not even noticing we've already lost those things and are attempting to replace them. Begin to feel the breath in the belly, and now let the inhale rise up through the heart like a wave that's caressing and bathing it. And let that wave on the exhale just flow down through soul, heart, mind, emotional field, body, like a wave washing through your being. Notice that it deposits you in a moment of silence. And then the in-breath begins again. A very natural, rhythmic wave. It is so much more than oxygen. It is the field of intelligence that permeates all of creation, that which breathes you into being by giving you its own energy, its own life force, its own existence. Every in-breath is God's out-breath, as the divine literally is pouring itself into you. How deeply do we open to receive it? Now is the ripe time to make our home in the breathing. For those that do so, there comes the fertile field of Malkuta that's all around you, within you, among you, above you. It is the breathing life and intelligence and the field from which all creation comes, in one unified oneness, yet not sameness, uniqueness, a dance, exquisite, beautiful, radiant to infinity, love. As we establish that breath, a new ripeness emerges. It is the ripeness of Lawile, in which we just welcome whatever arises in that field. We are restoring a trust in a voice not our own and an intelligent field that is much deeper, much wiser than the smaller circle of Ana, the I that I think I am, can even imagine as possible. And that intelligence, the heart, begins to suffuse and inform the surface mind more and more. And as it brings forth what we most need to see, feel, abide with in breath, inherent within Malkuta is the love of God, this wisdom that knows what needs to emerge, unravel, be softened, as it knits us together into a greater wholeness, restoring this depth of wholeness that we once lost in the dream of separation itself. Let's take a moment then now, and just as you feel the subtle current of the breath, you may be able to notice how it passes through the heart, the back of the heart. Very soft, very subtle. And as you rest in the heart, let's all there, just in our own silent way, say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the gift of life, the intelligence, the infinite power to dream dreams, to forget union, to cast ourselves into hell, and yet the power to choose anew and to ask for help, to seek restoration and wholeness, and to be met immediately by love as we begin to emerge from dreams. This great love that allows me separation and then restores me when I am but ready to ask, to surrender, to trust. This is extraordinary, for there has never been a trace of judgment, and never once has love recoiled, but rather given us very creative power to dream, to separate, to punish ourselves, to project. All of that is itself a gift to us, the freedom, infinite freedom, without a trace of judgment or recoil. And gradually we discover that in the Beatitude way, we are becoming that self-same love that can welcome every shadow, our own creations. We don't have to deny them. Our presence is the love that unfolds and transforms. You could say love is incarnating increasingly as the very self we are. And now take one more great, big, deep breath into the belly. Let it fill up through the heart. Hold the breath for just a moment like you would your favorite lover, and then let it go. Just as you would let go of your favorite lover, knowing that they're on their own journey and they're not just here for you, and you have no property rights. They belong to God. We can welcome all things that come as a gift. We can release them on their journey as a gift, knowing that things pass away when they have completed their purpose. And if you haven't already, I want to invite you just to let your eyes open softly. We just call it soft eyes, where we're not so much in a hurry to focus, but to welcome texture, shade, color, sounds through the ears, allowing this miraculous dimension. We call it space-time, 3D world. There are all kinds of words we come up with for this very unique dimension. Welcoming the things that pass away. Just now my eyes saw the desk over here in my room. It's arisen, someday it'll pass away. But I can welcome the things of time. And a little seed thought for you to consider in your coming week as we now turn toward the third Beatitude. Joshua uses the same word for eternity and world. Is that an accident? An expression of his ignorance? Or is he revealing something that we will come to know as well? That the very things of eternity and the things of the world are one and the same. When I am free from contraction and from ego, the recognition of the eternal shines through all passing things. Everything is God winking at us, saying, I'm here. You come from a Course in Miracles background, one of the most basic lessons, God is in everything I see. Simple. But to what degree do we welcome that and give up our own coloring and our filtering? And thus we see our filter of something rather than the thing in itself. Take a moment and look at those little tiny boxes, virtual boxes on your computer screen. How did that happen? Who dreamed that up? Whoa, even Joshua had to walk for 3 days to get from Galilee to Jerusalem to have a chat with a friend. We can go click, and we don't have to leave our easy chair. Brad can scratch his eyes, rub his eyes, and Israel and UK can watch him. Cynthia can kind of scratch her head through her hair. Hair, by the way, always fascinates me because it's not something I have anymore. But all these things are arising in these little boxes. Is this not a miracle? Is it not an extraordinary expression of the longing to connect, the longing to be returned to oneness? And in those little boxes, you see what Joshua calls friends of the heart. Those who are willing to make that journey from illusion to reality, from fragmentation to wholeness, as love itself incarnates exactly right where we were certain separation exists. The body in space-time, the breath, our consciousness, suffused by something that flowers and grows and unfolds us. We'll discover in the Beatitudes there are some very kind of specific archetypal universal stages that the flowering of the soul will go through. And of course, Joshua's perspective is one little incarnation is like an hour of a day. The creation is much more vast. You are much more vast than just the bookends of conception, what we call death. So take a breath. You are an infinite being. What is alive about you is alive always. In a very real sense, it has never been born. That is, it's not the product of the items of time coming together, or body or world or form. And there is no time when you, your essence, will ever cease to be. Yet within it arises infinite potentiality, intelligence, the creation of worlds within worlds, reactions, personas, judgments. We can, oh my goodness gracious, we are amazing creators, even if we don't like what we create. So it's all rather incredible. So look upon your friends of the heart, and as you look with open eyes, give everybody a wave and quietly just say thank you to them. If it is true that there's only one, this oneness is all that is. And what Joshua tells us is very true, that every choice you make for healing, your return to wholeness uplifts the farthest of stars. Your journey, your creation story of forgetting the divine and restoring that union with as the divine is literally affecting the entire matrix of creation. Just as when we recoil into victimhood and perceive an enemy outside the self, we are contributing to the matrix of creation. We're seeking to restore and sustain the dream of illusion or separation, the hell of fear. We push love away. So everyone here and everyone on this planet, in any way, shape, or form, being willing to welcome their shadow, to turn and look back upon their creations, to take up the alchemy of genuine forgiveness, which, by the way, the first three Beatitudes are absolutely critical to genuine forgiveness. All of us who then are making a courageous journey. Though our eyes and our minds seem to show us a fragmented world, we're no longer allowing that to be what defines us or the potentials of creation. We're allowing the alchemy of transfiguration in our own being to become the field through which love can indeed transform this very matrix. We're not here to get beamed up or to escape. We are here to welcome all of creation as ours and become the field of love in which what we see reflects wholeness, reflects beauty, reflects forgiveness, reflects the unlimited potentiality of Malkuta. We are here to bring heaven to earth. Again, if you come from a Course in Miracles background, there's one key statement toward the end of it that easy to look past or not understand because we have to come to feel it in our own being. And he tells Helen, heaven and earth will pass away. Heaven and earth, two, will pass away. Doesn't mean that earth form will all disappear and there will only be heaven. It's a very Greek model to begin with, but rather he tells us they will cease to exist as separate states. Form, formlessness, eternity and time all become one creative field. No more obstacles in the presence of our perception. Our hearts, souls, minds, and bodies will see heaven. We are in it now. So again, we're not here to escape. Beam me up, Scotty, is not the essence of spirituality, but rather show me how to fully incarnate, to be that walking, talking field of Malkuta that brings forth what reveals the good, the holy, and the beautiful. The restoration of creation as the expression that God is. That's the heart and soul of the Christ path, and it drips in everything Joshua teaches. It's in the Lord's Prayer, it's in the Beatitudes, it's everywhere. Keeping that in mind then, let's take a moment and look at Beatitude number 3. Now, the first thing you have to remember is to experience Beatitude 3, you've got to totally forget about Beatitude 1 and 2, and then assertively will yourself to make the third Beatitude happen. You have to accomplish this like a test in 5th grade math class that decides whether or not you can go on to the 6th grade. No, let's not do that. Indeed, the third Beatitude is a quality that emerges naturally as the result of net bayun, the working of love, as a result of lawile, as the result of the willingness to make our home in the breathing. It flowers not by effort, but as an effect of the first 2 Beatitudes. Hope all that makes sense. But let's drop into it bit by bit, vibration, essence, word. And again, when you're immersing in these Beatitudes, be careful not to let the mind get too flowery in its interpretations with a ton of words and meanings. Really take time contemplating the essence words of each. Almost like you had ... between these essence words. Feel them, let them work on you, rather than trying to translate it too much into the left brain of our English language. So as you just rest, if you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to do so. If you want to leave them open and rest in the breath, that's equally as fine. Just welcome it. Tubayum. Ripeness now. Ripe time, this moment. Tubayum. Lamakike. Lamakike. Softened rigidity. A heaviness of a moral weight, judgment, unworthiness, failure, these perceptions of moral self-judgment, dissolving, a weight lifting away from the flow of the self. Humble, gentle. But in Aramaic, gentleness is this restoration of relaxed wholeness. It's not the effect of pretense or efforting. Humility, to be humbled. This quality in which we remember, I am an effect of the Creator. I did not create myself. I'm relaxing back into the order of creation. Ena is resting in Ena, the wave resting and restoring its remembrance of the ocean. Defenselessness, presence, Lamakike, quality arising because I've made my home in the breathing and allowed the wisdom of Malkuta via Lawile to reveal what's needed now to be seen, felt, breathed with and through. As a result, this hard butter, this bar of butter is softened, melting, open. Lamakike. Dihinon. Same word in Beatitude 2. Dilhone in the first Beatitude gives way and becomes dihinon. I'm being touched now, and I'm touching. This kiss between creator and created is occurring in the depth of my relaxed being, my presence, the field of breath. Tuvayon, lamakike. In this humility, this gentleness that is emerging, dihinon, now something comes to touch me, and in its touch I will touch it. But what is it now? What is this new ripeness? Nertun, arha. Nertun, to receive. Like a flower that opens to receive the raindrop or the ray of sunlight. Something softens and opens that allows a deeper receiving to penetrate the closed and hidden and fearful places that have softened and been healed and thus have allowed this opening. Receiving, receiving, nertun. Receiving what? Arha, arha. Feel the power of that word. You may even gently repeat it within your being, and later as you're practicing, let it be externalized, a sound that you hear with your vocal cords, and move your body. Aha! The gift of power, the return of a new confidence, a new momentum, to be empowered, a new direction that can bring a revelation, a direction. Yes, it is time to sell those stocks, or to buy that car, or to grant forgiveness, whatever it may be. We see it in our internal being, but there's this quality of energy. Something is now moving through us and moving us. We can take a new action. We can step forward. And what we're stepping forward in is already carrying us. The wisdom of Malkuta is revealing the way and breathing the power to enact, to create, to bring a change. Nertun, arha. Tuvayon, lamakike, dihinon, nertun, arha. The flowering and fruit of Beatitude 1 and 2 in their own organic, amazing process under the guidance of Sophia, Shem, Chokhmah, Holy Spirit, itself the emanation of the intelligence of Allah, Abun, Abba, what we call God, which I like to call gushing, ongoing divinity, the power of creation itself. Ena, the source of Ena, the ocean which gives birth to my particular expression. Ena, Ena, I and my Father are one. Tuvayon, lamakike, dihinon, nertun, arha. And as we rest there, just feel that Let's gently return to a story we have all heard. In the garden, in the beginning, were Adam and Eve. But in Aramaic, Dam again is the sap of the tree. There is a body mind, a being that has this channel through which energy can move. It can dig its roots deep into the earth. And the deeper it does that, the greater the branches can spread out, and then fruit can begin to appear. Dam, Dam. Yet without Ah, none of this can happen. So much of our journey is releasing the knots and the blocks to the flow as Ah, Ahal, Alaha, Abun, Abba begins to flow through this being from soul to cell. Yet what is it that allows this to happen? The importance of Eve. In Aramaic and in the Hebrew traditions, the essence of the name Eve is life force, creative power, birthing power. We call it the divine feminine, but it can, of course, show up through men or women. There's this flow, this trust, this dance. It's like the garden hose is no longer blocked with its knots. Somebody's turned on the spigot. So Eve infuses Dam with the life force of nature, but also the life force of infinite creative potentiality to birth, to create. Adam and Eve, the joining of the feminine and masculine qualities, is what ignites multiplicity, fruit. It can bear great fruit only when the two come together as one. Eve is life force, this great empowerment that we now begin to feel in the third Beatitude. This is Eve penetrating Dam, merging with Ah right here in our bodies, our hearts, our souls, our minds, right where we are in space and time. This new creative power, new only because we've pushed it away and fragmented and lost touch with it. And the power of the feminine of Eve is squiggly. It's not a straight logical line. It knows how to feel. It knows how to flow. It's a mystery that we welcome. So Adam and Eve, joined together as one. What casts us from the garden is that Adam and Eve become split, and into their split comes guilt, unworthiness, the dream of separation. We lose the ability to be penetrated by Ah. We lose the life force, the power, the joy, the dance, the eroticism, the sexuality, the sensuality of form and energy. We become scattered. We've lost the garden. So for Joshua, by the way, the story was there for thousands of years before Joshua. Went through changes and refinements, of course, and it went through an interpretative filter that actually came to perceive Eve as the fall of man. This is utter nonsense. It has always been utter nonsense. The fall is really the fear of the dark, squiggly, powerful, fluid, moving energies of creation, as we slowly came to replace it with linear logic, concept, breaking the whole into a collection of discrete nouns, trees, rocks, government, sky, heaven, earth. We live in a fragmented duality of discrete nouns that exist nowhere except in the perceiving, thinking mind. In reality, life, Eve, is invisible and flowing everywhere. It is everything fluid. It is everything powerful. But Eve has something that Dom without awe has forgotten, whether we're male or female, that part of the mind that tries to think, tries to figure it out, only trusts its own thinking and logic. Dom without awe is afraid of opening to the feeling qualities, this ocean, this river that can flow, called Eva or Eve, life force, that which gives us the power to cry the tears we need to cry, that which gives us the power to feel the birthing power, to take an action, to start a movement, like the young lady who's becoming the voice of the climate problem. It's like, what power is moving her to step forward and to speak? And we feel that power in her. Martin Luther King, what is it that moves in the world to destroy the boundaries of the world, to allow a new consciousness to move? That's the power of Eve. And it comes to us as we open in sacred dance or sensuality, or we learn to cry and breathe and move. There's a power that no longer can be contained. It wants to move through us. And it joins with Dom, our nervous system, our body, our feeling being. It will inform and transform even the logical mind. We'll think better, much more clearly, much more compassionately. So Adam and Eve, that's really what it all means in this tradition. It's to welcome the birthing power. And we do that, Lawile will help us discover where we've created our blockages. If you're raised in a Western Judeo-Christian world, trust me, you have taken on the need to repress, say, sexuality or sexual energy, or anger, or anything that's squiggly. You got to control it. You got to get a grip and dominate it with the logical mind. But this itself is what causes our split. But what is in the dark, like just what's in the ocean under the wave, is very powerful. But it is the power of creation. It is the power that births all forms and all worlds and all dimensions. Logic never did that. Conclusions, judgments, interpretations have never done that. There is a mysterious dark energy, this infinite field of power, but we've learned not to trust it. We've learned to build blocks against it, to get a grip, and then replace the flow with concepts, ideas, dogmas, and religions, none of which are the experience Joshua is seeking to lead us to. Let's give that a nice deep breath. What is my relationship in my own being between Adam and Eve? Have I welcomed the flowing energies through my breath as have I softened so that this light of awe can penetrate? Have I brought the two together in one flowing wholeness so that fruit can be born in new ways? Where might I have a fear of the dark, what has been inhibited or repressed? Even when we breathe, we may notice that, wow, I can feel the breath up in my upper chest and in my heart. But as I kind of track it, I lose feeling as it goes down into my belly. And what is Jane talking about? Feel it in the marrow, feel it in my pelvic area? I don't feel anything. That's a sign that density and repression has settled in. Perfectly okay. Just notice it, bring it into your awareness. What would happen if I let the breath touch the dark and hidden places? This is another aspect of Lamakike. It softens the rigidity in the hidden places. A quality of Lamakike is that we begin to feel something loosen up in places that were previously closed or felt vague to us or pushed away. We're Here he's not talking about the fragments, the memories, the things, the discomforts of Lawile, but the result of allowing Lawile. The hidden, rigid places seem loosey-goosey. Everything begins to move and open. And we do begin to feel the breath, presence, life force moving not just in the body in new ways, but moving through the emotional, mental fields where we have held judgments against Eve, against this squiggly, flowing energy that is not logical or linear, but holistic and flowing and powerful and mysterious. Tubayun, lamakike, soft butter, everything flowing. But the feeling now is one of an influx, a receiving of life force. Eve is returning. Oh, God, it feels so good to be alive. Yeah, I'm going to start that book now. This ardor, arha is one of the roots for our English word ardor, this feeling of empowerment, this confidence, to step out. So I'll take a breath right there and ask ourselves gently, what is my relationship to trusting the feeling flow of power, ardor? Where do I block it or shut it off? Where did I receive messages in my early childhood? Tone it down, get a grip, conform. Don't be so loud. Stop rolling around naked in the grass and laughing out loud at the top of your lungs. What if the neighbors see? Where did I learn? What messages did I receive to block the movement of life force? When was the last time I got undressed, even in the privacy of my room, and put on the most audacious rock music and let my body be set free? Or African drumming? When was the last time I did those things? Where did I learn that somehow that needs to be controlled and directed from the conceptual, intellectual, or dogmatic perceptual mind that doesn't trust aliveness? It needs to grip it, repress it, push it down. Control. Where did I become Dom without awe, afraid of Eve? In my own being. Yet it is the power, feminine if you will, of Eve, this power that comes, arha, as we open to receive. This is divine, this is God, this is this flow. And we'll need that power to cry our deepest tears, to feel our rage of inside our lawile. We may contain an anger. We may need to just let it move. That's going to take energy, life force. We may want to write that book. Well, you know what? It's going to take energy to sit down and do it day in and day out, and then give it birth. It's going to take arha to finally express the deepest truth of our heart to those that we've brilliantly programmed and taught to see us as a doormat or a toxic dump site, etc. We all have these subtle places in us. So let's all take a deep breath and go, wow. So this is what the divine feminine is. It's got nothing to do with the plumbing of the body. It has everything to do with this life force, this power that can trust and flow and dance and be completely non-linear, non-logical, but its intelligence is in touch with a greater power. And as this begins to flow through us, the capacity of the mind to think, to plan, to organize is actually infused, it's illuminated with a greater power and a greater clarity. The mind becomes increasingly the servant of the awakened heart. The wholeness, Adam and Eve as one, living in the garden, bearing great fruit. So take a breath. I hope all that makes some sense to you this morning. But the whole point is this. In the Beatitudes, to me, I kind of call this like graduate school stuff. He's giving us this succinct, meticulous description of each subtle phase. Like a scientist, imagine for a moment that you've never looked through a microscope, have never seen some kind of photo taken through a microscope. You don't even know that atoms exist or electrons are flowing. Until not too long ago, there weren't any human beings other than mystics who had seen these things till we designed the technology. And suddenly, there's Joshua saying, want to look through my microscope? Take a look at what's really going on. And you look through the microscope and you go, oh my God, what is this energy, this light inside the breath? And when that flows that way, this gets a little disturbed and then it relaxes and softens. And now this new wave of strength comes and it gives birth to a whole new form. What's going on? I never saw that before. So it takes this master who's built the microscope and looked within and has mastered these phases so profoundly that he can give them to us in such delicate steps. Yet each is intricately linked to what unfolds, like the petals of a flower emerging from a seed. Beatitude 1, when truly engaged and allowed, thins the self. Up comes exactly what we most need because it's given to us by love, what we most need to be aware of now. And the more we can rest in breath and stay present, rather than breaking away from it or not trusting it, that very disturbance, that mourning, that confusion, whatever it may be, is welcomed, and love is already knitting us together into a greater wholeness of presence. And from that petal emerges Lamakike. And in Lamakike, this new life force, this new movement that brings illumination, momentum, etc., can begin to flood and pour right back into us, not just as a concept or an idea in the mind, not as some spiritualized idea that occurs somewhere in the soul that I'm not feeling, but right here and right now, from soul to cell, all levels of our being, right here, grounded right where I am, right where the I finds itself situated in the circle of space and time, which exists within another dimension and then another dimension, world upon world upon world. Creation is being restored right where we built the obstacles that tried to keep it out and replaced it with unworthiness, guilt, shame, etc. And a key element of this quality of Lamakike is, again, it feels important to emphasize it, the dissolving of a moral weight. Have you ever felt the weight of unworthiness? Yeah. It's a weight, not just a concept. It's a frequency or a vibration that weighs us down. We can't move. It's like quicksand. We try, we wish we could, but this weight. Imagine, how about shame? Anybody felt the weight of shame? Anybody tried to project shame and weigh down somebody else? Yep, that happens on planet Earth. It's part of the dream of separation. The ego does that. What about the big E? What about guilt? Anybody felt guilty just because they exist? Like something inherently flawed in me just because I exist. Guilt. Let alone anybody perceive themselves as having failed, whether that's an accurate perception in some relative way. And then you take on a guilt. Anybody taken on a sense of guilt for having failed? Yeah, let's all take a breath and go, oh yeah. Guilt, shame, unworthiness. This is what he's talking about, these frequencies of a moral weight. And all morality requires a mind that passes a universal judgment. In fact, that's how he defines morality. The mind that judges another soul or yourself. I hereby decree that you, JM, are unworthy to be alive. Well, moral judgment. Whatever the mind perceives you've done, etc., this never goes away. It's locked in forever. You're stuck with it. This is your being and your existence. Forget about it. You can never be free because you fucked up. And then, of course, anybody internalize it. Pardon my French, by the way, but it's a rather eloquent, high-level language, this beautiful word of fuck. So forget underlying conditioned knowledge. But we take on and internalize it then, don't we? I have fucked up becomes I am a fuck up. Anybody done that? Made that equating in the mind? God, oh my God. Let's tune into it for a moment. Just remember a time you fucked up, whatever that may be. Didn't pass the test. I hotwired my dad's car and crashed it into the neighbor's house or a car 2 blocks away. That did not go well. So I fucked up. Then it take on the weight of I am a fuck up. And just feel that for a moment. Feel the energy of I'm a fuck up. And if I'm a fuck up, how can I possibly deserve love, empowerment? How could the universe ever want to move through me? I mean, one of my complaints with Joshua when he first appeared, I argued with him. Can't you see you're choosing wrongly? I'm not worthy of this. And I'm right about it. I'm the fuck up. You, Joshua, are incapable of even making an intelligent choice. So, ooh, that deep sense. Can you feel the weight of that? That's what he's talking about here. As we heal and awaken, we will go through via Lawile into Lamaki. This energy begins to dissipate and melt away from our being via forgiveness, a return of the life force and energy of genuine self-love. We learn our lesson. It's not we don't deny it. We go, yeah, boy, wow, what was running me then? Yeah. Now I can choose anew. This literal feeling state of an unweighting of a prior burden. I don't trust myself. I'm unworthy. I've got to stay gripped. That moral weight of judgment. What would it truly be like if it were dissolved in Lamaki and the breath could flow through every cell and all aspects of your being loved yourself? Not in an egoic or prideful way, but in the way of truth. I am. I exist. Like a wave arising in the oneness of all creation. That one gives me existence. I am here. I and my Father are one. I no longer am giving energy to the things of tomorrow. Again, in Aramaic, that word means things pass away. They are either complete or a lesson has been learned. In A Course in Miracles, he says something quite interesting. I have to paraphrase here. He talks about your peculiar relationship to the past. Has anybody found themselves like it's like you just drop into a stagnant swimming pool and you don't even realize you've done it, but the mind is swirling only in the past. Anybody done that? Oh my goodness, we drug ourselves in interesting ways. Yeah, that things have passed away. It's like it's not even there anymore, but our mind keeps returning to it, whirling around. Have you ever found yourself notice that the mind does that and you're constantly going around, why did I do that? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Why didn't I do that differently? Oh, if only I could go back and redo it. Regret. You know that energy of regret? That's a heavy moral weight. Now think about this for a moment. It's an energetic, we call a moral weight, but it has a weight. If you have a boat and you want to keep it in one place, don't you need something with a lot of weight called an anchor that you throw into the water, the depths, it disappears down into the darkness, lands down there in the mud, and it keeps you from moving. Anybody ever experienced that? Like feeling like you're really stuck in the mud? Yeah, that's what he's talking about here. What would it be like to be free of that truly? Well, it's really simple. You just use your intellect and you will yourself to be free. I now decree that I am free from all things of the past. I am the unlimited. Oh, bullshit. In other words, it's just trying to use the mind to make happen something that can only happen as we make our home in this universal breath, allow what needs to bubble to the surface to do so that love can bring about the healing and restoration that allows us to release and experience Lamakike. Moral weight is gone. You are born again. And the whole notion of being born again is exactly this in Aramaic. It has to do with being restored into the newness or the wholeness in which Adam and Eve are one and you're getting on with life. The moral weight is gone. You can't will yourself to it. It flowers through the willingness to love and embrace what comes from Lapile. The fragmented parts are restored in a new wholeness. The moral weight can drop away. So here's a wonder question for you. Would that be okay? Truly be okay? No. Who would I be without the feeling of moral weight? Who would I be restored like soft butter through which Arha can flow anew? For in it is the power to love, to create, to appreciate, to dance, to drink in every moment, to feel the presence of the divine, to be moved by it. What if every little cell and every buried aspect of my being has been liberated from this rigidity, this weight, this fragmentation? And there's only this wholeness and this flow. That's his goal with the Beatitudes. And as we come into this third Beatitude, we begin to realize that he's revealed both practice and qualities or stages that emerge from the practice. He's already been there. He knows what will unfold if we follow the way that he gives us. Set aside the mind, come back to breath and feeling, learn to allow and trust and open like a flower by becoming open to what may be hidden and rigid within. We don't have to search for it. We just need to make our home in the breath, rest in that wholeness. Malkuta, the love of God, will show us the next cookie crumb, that which is waiting to be remembered and be restored in our being now. And that can be quite a journey that takes us to great depths. But it begins each time we're willing to thin the self, to let go of the momentum of the mind, to come into presence. Now is the ripe time to make my home in the breathing. I need do nothing but this. Love will do the rest. As I cultivate the capacity to embrace all the little fragmented parts of my journey, again, in Way of Mastery and in A Course in Miracles, he tells us that your creations await you. There are two amazing aspects to this. The first is the fragmented parts, the beliefs, the perceptions, the projections, the judgments, the very patterning of the separate self is waiting on our welcome. That's our creation. Our refusal to cry, our projections of anger, our grievances. All of these are our creations waiting to be restored, brought home to us like a child picks up a crying, or a mother picks up a child and puts it on her lap and rocks it, goes, yeah, okay. And the first three Beatitudes are about the alchemical process that dissolves these hidden, forgotten places in a way, he tells us in Way of Transformation, that the thinking mind can never reach. These roots are deeper. They're in a more subtle level of our being. They involve energy and feeling and moral weight, not just concept and idea. So the thinking mind itself can never penetrate those roots. Here in the Beatitudes, he's beginning to reveal to us what does penetrate those roots as a great power of healing beyond the limits of the mind begins to flow into our being because we learn how to welcome it. There's an alchemical, holistic, we could even say mysterious process of the power of love itself as the ocean restores the wave in ways that the wave could never cause to happen. If I have appendicitis, I'm going to need to surrender to the surgeon, not do it myself. And in this very real way, this energy and light within the breath that opens us to this infinite field, the power of creation itself, this love, already knows how to perform the surgery via Lavile that will restore us in Lamaki Ke. And as Lamaki Ke is established, and maybe that's not quite the word because it can be fluid, we'll experience it, things will happen, and then the breath, and there's a little more Lavile there, and then that aspect begins to soften. So it's the journey of Eve. It's very holistic, very fluid, very flowing. Just trust it all. We discover that this is the turn. This is the first trinity of the Beatitudes. Beatitude 1, 2, and 3 are an aspect of one whole As we experience them, something begins to turn. It's the simplest way to put it. And the first thing it will do is restore us in something we have lost confidence in, that we have judged, that we've separated ourselves from. But that's in Beatitude 4, where it begins to unfold the second Trinity, which is an extraordinary journey. Yet that flowering is dependent on the first Trinity. We can't leap ahead because there's no bypass in love. So let's take a nice deep breath right where we are. Just come back into presence and welcome the breath, just as it is. Even in the energies that have been transmitted this morning, you may have felt a tightness in the body or a disturbance in the mind or a memory or a feeling state. This is love operating, performing net bayun. You may have lost touch with your breath. The shoulders may have tightened. The thinking mind may have become too engaged. Now is the right time to make our home in the breathing. Lamaskenahi Baruch. We welcome what is, the tension in the body, the racing of the mind. It's impossible to make the mind be still because that's an attempt to effort. But it is possible that the busyness of the mind will relent and melt like a wave into the ocean as we rest in presence. So paradoxically, by welcoming all things that truly no longer serve, dissolve away. And oh, how the habit of the egoic mind does not trust this unseen, holistic, swirling power of what is hidden in the dark, not realizing that we've hidden God in the dark and replaced it with our own ideas and our own patterns. Into thy hands I commend my spirit, the very essence of the first Beatitude, welcoming, softening, allowing. We begin to realize that even a disturbance, an unhappiness, a fear, these are not problems to be solved, but frequencies to be welcomed into love's embrace. And the very thing we lost in the primordial beginning of the dream, the unified field of the flowing breath between Ana and Ana, between ocean and wave, begins to be restored in the subtle, fractured, fragmented parts of our being. Humpty Dumpty is being put together again, net bayun, not by our own efforting, but by the very power of the presence of love, inherent in Malkuta. May this week be a week in which we amp up our practice, our willingness to rest in the breath even more deeply, to cultivate the ability to observe and to feel whatever arises, not as something I must solve, but just something that is being brought up from the touch of Sophia, of wisdom, of love, so that it can be in my awareness and be welcomed without loss of breath, without contraction, with no need to pull away. We are becoming that which embraces all things, trusts all things. We are, in fact, incarnating the love that heals and transforms creation itself. We are incarnating Christ. Then our new creations can begin to emerge from this wholeness. But that's all about the second Trinity. And next week we'll immerse ourselves in Beatitude 4. But for now, feel these three as one stream, one flowing wholeness. These beautiful three stages or steps of one seamless unfolding, revealed to us under the microscope and shown to us by our brother and friend Jeshua, who has made the journey and knows it so intricately and finds the way to invite us to make that journey ourselves. Tubayun, lamaskinahi beru, dilhone malkuta dashmaya. Tubayun, lawile, dihinon, netbayun. Tubayun, lamakike, dihinon, nertun, arha. And with that, beloved friends, blessings to you. Thank you so much for being here today. As we join together, we are creating the fertile field. This is a sacred temple. We bring our participation, our presence, our desire, our willingness, and wherever two or more are gathered in my name. Name in Aramaic means atmosphere, quality, resonance. It's not the name of Jesus. It's the field of his beingness that he fulfilled and emanated. And as we rest in this, we create that field. Wherever two or more are gathered in this resonant field, this atmosphere, this quality of desire and willingness, there I am in the midst of them. There is the unified sacred field of Malkuta, of Christed being, pure light of love. It's a good use of time. So with that, blessings upon you all. Thank you so much. And we'll see you here again next week. Enjoy the Trinity of the first three Beatitudes. Give yourself that gift this coming week. After all, why not? Take good care. Bye-bye.
There's nothing to stop here. Check if the device is on your home Wi-Fi network.